Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Krishna, 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 Ram,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining today. Pallavi Mataji, Samyukta Mataji, Sapan Prabhu, Sunil Prabhu. Let us begin with Charana prayers. Yes. This is the new book we are starting from today. Elevation to Krishna Consciousness, wonderful book. Another book by Srila Prabhupada. Let us begin with Mangala Charana prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukhaṁ karoti vācālam pangum langayate girim yakrupātam aham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va yasmaret pundarikaksham sabhyabhyantaram shuchihi. Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. So let me share this book. 1 second. Yeah, you're all able to see, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mata. So we'll start. Elevation to Krishna Consciousness. Titles itself is so much attractive, actually. Krishna Consciousness, the matchless gift. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure. The path of perfection. Perfection of yoga. Easy journey to other planets. Perfect questions, perfect answers. We have read so far. I mean, these are the books. Beyond birth and death. Coming back. Now we'll start reading this book. Elevation to Krishna Consciousness. By His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaranda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So contents it talks about here. Choosing human and animal lives, hard struggle for happiness, toward a peaceful society, knowing Krishna as He is, knowing Krishna's energies, taking to Krishna consciousness. Choosing human and animal lives, hard struggle for happiness, toward a peaceful society, knowing Krishna as He is, knowing Krishna's energies, taking to Krishna consciousness. Right? Titles itself are attractive also. The contents of this book. Let us start reading. Yeah. Samyukta Mata, you can start with.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Just like you can do.
Chapter 1. Choosing Human and Animal Lives. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, blinded by the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of knowledge. It is customary with these words to offer obeisances to the spiritual master who enlightens his disciples in the matter of transcendental knowledge. The Vedic process does not involve research work. In mundane scholarship, we have to show our academic learning by some research. But the Vedic process is different. In the Vedic process, the research work is already done. It is complete and it is simply handed down by disciplic succession from teacher to student. There is no question of research work because the instruments and the means with which one conducts such research work are blunt and imperfect. At this stage of our material existence, we are conditioned by many laws of nature. All conditioned souls are subject to four defects due to the imperfection of their senses. One defect is that the conditioned soul is certain to commit mistakes. There is no man who does not commit mistakes. In India, for instance, Mahatma Gandhi was supposed to be a very great personality, but he also committed mistakes. 5 minutes before he came to the meeting at which he was killed, he was warned by confidential associates not to go, but he persisted. To commit mistakes is very natural in the conditioned state of life. Indeed, the popular saying has arisen, to err is human. Another imperfection of the conditioned soul is that he is sure to be illusion. Being illusion means accepting something which is not, taking some fun- phantas- phantasmagoria.
Magoria.
Yes, Prabhuji. Phantasmagoria. To be factual, every one of us is under the impression that we are these bodies, but actually we are not. Accepting the body to be the self is called illusion or maya. The third imperfection is that conditioned souls have a tendency to cheat. We have often heard a storekeeper say, because you are my friend, I won't make any profit of you. But in actuality, we know that he is making at least 50% profit. There are so many instances of this cheating propensity. There are also many examples of teachers who actually know nothing but put forth theories in words like perhaps or it may be, while in actuality they are simply cheating their students. The fourth imperfection is that the senses of the living entity are not perfect. Our vision is so limited that we cannot see very far away nor very near. The eye can see only under certain conditions, and therefore it is understood that our vision is limited. Similarly, all our other senses are also limited. It is not possible to understand the unlimited by these imperfect, limited senses. The conclusion is that the Vedic process does not encourage us to endeavor to learn the absolute truth by employing our present senses, which are conditioned in so many ways. If we are to have knowledge, it must come from a superior source which is not conditioned by these four imperfections. That source is Krishna. He is the supreme authority of Bhagavad Gita, and he is accepted as the perfect authority by so many saints and sages. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we have that four imperfections, four defects of a living entity. So whatever a conditioned soul suffers with these four defects, the knowledge is not perfect. That's where everything, something or other, every time is changing. What are the four defects? We are having limited senses. With that limited senses, we don't perceive the things as is. Right? For example, if you take imperfect senses, Prabhupada take an example of eye. We cannot see far away and we cannot see very, very much near. That is a conditioned state. We have limited senses, imperfect senses. And that is imperfect, that is limited. And we have cheating propensity. We are having illusory potential. We are in the illusion. What is that illusion? Illusion means which is not Maya. The body itself we treated as it's a permanent thing, but the body is not permanent thing. Body is going to change every time. Right? So imperfect senses, cheating propensity, imperfect senses, cheating propensity, become illusioned, and one more thing.
Everyone does a mistake.
Everyone does a mistake. Perfect. Everyone does a mistake. Nobody is perfect here. That's why whatever comes from these human beings, the knowledge is not perfect. Somewhat, it may raise some material things, but it's not going to achieve the ultimate. It is not going to give the proper things which helps us the ultimate thing. Who will give that? Who is the supreme? Who is the perfect then? Krishna is a perfect. The creator is a perfect. We are all created beings. He is the creator. We come from a creator. That's why we are created by him. Creator knows everything. And creator is a perfect. Is not subject to these four imperfections or defects. That's where Vedic knowledge is the perfect knowledge, which stays forever. The knowledge is perfect and it stays forever. Before we come into existence in this material world, the knowledge is there. Bhagavad Gita is there, Bhagavatam there, all the Vedic literatures are there. And we are experiencing, we are reading. After we die, still this knowledge is still there. Millions of years ago, this knowledge is given to sun god Vivaswan. That means this knowledge is there always. It's called Shabda Pramana. In the previous yugas, when they heard these Vedas, that's it. It sticks to in their minds. But in the Kali Yuga, it's not possible. That's where written form came. Vasudeva is written, Vasudeva is dictating, and Lord Ganesh is written. That's where at least we are now reading. So this knowledge is eternal. Which is eternal? Vedas knowledge. What are the Vedas? Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam especially. Right. So that's the thing Prabhupada writes in this paragraphs, imperfections. And yeah. And we have to approach a proper guru to understand the spiritual knowledge. It starts with, choosing human and animal lives. Oh, this prayer, before reciting or before starting any class, we recite this prayer. I offer my respectful obeisance to my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Ignorance, analogy is darkness. Knowledge is light. With the torchlight of knowledge. That's where we approach a proper spiritual master. Yeah, let us continue. Yes. Yeah, Pallavi Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu. Those who are serious students of the Vedic literature accept authority. Bhagavad Gita, for example, is not a scholarly presentation which arose out of so much research work. It is perfect knowledge that was taught by Lord Krishna to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we receive information from it that in previous ages, Sri Krishna also taught it to the sun god Vishwaswan. Vivaswan. And it was handed down from time immemorial from Vishwaswan by disciplic succession. Chautara Prabhuji చదవమంటారా?
ఒకసారి చేస్తాను, మీరు అట్లా చేయండి.
ట్రై చేస్తాను.
ఇమం వివర్తే యోగం ప్రోక్తవాన్ అహమవ్యయం వివస్వాన్ మనవే ప్రాహ మనుర్ ఇక్ష్వాకవే బ్రవీత్.
ఇమం వివస్వతే యోగం ప్రోక్తవాం అహం అవ్యయాం వాస్. అదేంటి ప్రభుజీ? వివస్వాన్ మానవే ప్రాహ మానుర్ ఇక్ష్వాకవే బ్రవీత్. The blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. If we study Bhagavad Gita according to the academic knowledge or according to our own mental speculation, we are certain to commit mistakes. It is not possible to understand Bhagavad Gita in this way. It is necessary to follow carefully in the footsteps of Arjuna. In previous ages, due to interpretation and mental speculation, the real purport of Bhagavad Gita was lost. Therefore, Krishna re-established the teachings by giving them to Arjuna. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasar rajasar. చెప్పండి ప్రభు. రాజర్షేయ విధు సా kali nehe mahata yogo nastaha parantapa sa evayam mayate dya yogaah proktaah puratanaah bhakto bhakto sime shakta cheti sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Bhagavad Gita 4.2, third shloka. Thus, whoever follows in the footsteps of Arjuna approaching Krishna in a spirit of devotion can understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita as well as all other Vedic literatures. There are 4 Vedas, Sama,
Rigvedam.
Yajur, and Atharva, and there are 108 Upanishads, including the Ishopanishad, Katha Upanishad, and Taittreya Upanishad, as well as the Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. These literatures are not meant for any particular class of men, but for the totality of human society. All societies can take advantage of Vedic knowledge to perfect human life. As pointed out before, human life is not meant for sense gratification, but for understanding God, the universe, and our own identity. From Vedic literatures, we can understand that this material world is only a partial manifestation of the complete creation of God. The larger portion of God's creation is found in the spiritual world of the Vaikunthas. Above and beyond this material nature, there is a superior spiritual nature, as Sri Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita. Shadwan Prabhuji, Shadwan.
Bhumirapo nalovayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamye bhinna prakrutirasthada apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yedam dharyate jagat. Wanna try?
Yeah. Bhumir apo nalo vayuhu काम मनो बुद्धिर एव च अहंकारा इतीयं मे भिन्न प्रकृतिर अस्तधा अपेरयम् इतस्त्वन्यं प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परम जीवभूतं महाबाहो ययेधं धरायते जगत. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind, which is all living entities who are struggling with material nature and sustaining the universe. Continue, Jayamantar Prabhuji.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Prabhupada quoted a few verses from Bhagavad Gita in these paragraphs. It starts with, Imam Vivasvate Yoga. This knowledge is given to Sun God Vivaswan very long back, billions of years ago. Imperishable science of yoga to the Sun God Vivaswan. Vivaswan is instructed to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed to Ikshvaku. So Prabhupada writes, if we study Bhagavad Gita according to academic knowledge and according to our own mental speculation, it won't help. We are certain to commit mistakes. It is not possible to understand Bhagavad Gita in this way. It is necessary to follow carefully in the footsteps of Arjuna. So what is the footsteps of Arjuna? Anybody likes to add? Let's share. It is necessary to follow carefully in the footsteps of Arjuna. Wonderful verse.
Basically, we should understand Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna understood. Right? So that's the message.
So Prabhupada quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, Evam parampara praptam, imam rajarshiyo viduhu sakale neha mata yogo nasta parantapa. And this is very important. Savayam maya tedhya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosmi sakacheti rahasyam hi etaduttamam. Krishna says this one. You are a bhakta and you are a saka, means friend. You are a friend of me and you are a devotee. That's where I'm rahasyam etaduttam. I'm giving this knowledge. So the same mood we have to inculcate and understand Bhagavad Gita. Of course, we have to surrender to a proper disciplic succession under a guru. We have to serve. We have to understand this knowledge. That's where Prabhupada writes this Bhagavad Gita as it is, without any concocted or selfish motives or own interpretations. Knowledge is, as Arjuna is received from Krishna, like that we also getting. Thus, whoever follows in the footsteps of Arjuna, approaching Krishna in a spirit of devotion, can understand the purpose of Bhagavad Gita as well as all other Vedic literature. These literatures are there, 4 Vedas, 108 Upanishads, 18 Puranas, Vedanta. All societies can take advantage of Vedic knowledge to perfect human life. And human life is not meant for sense gratification, but for understanding God. Atato Brahma Jignasa, Aham Brahmasmi. Yeah, our bodies, from Vedic literature, we can understand that this material world is only a partial manifestation of the complete creation of God. The larger portion of God's creation is found in the spiritual world of the Vaikunthas. If we take four parts, 3 parts of that, they're in the third 3 parts. 1 part only we see in this material verse. We see material creation. That means there are so many unlimited spiritual planets. 1 part, and that means if we take 4 parts, 4 bhagalu, for example, if you take up 1 part, we see that material nature, but you are expanding and you are increasing unlimited spiritual planet. That is 4 more spiritual world of the larger portion of God's creation is found in the spiritual world. Above and beyond this material nature, there is superior spiritual nature, as Sri Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita. Apareyam itastanyam prakritim viddhimeparam jivabhutam mahabhavo eyam eyadam dharyate jagat. So how this material world created? This is the answer. Bhumirapo, these are the elements. 5 gross elements, 3 subtle elements. And besides this inferior nature, Almighty Arjuna, there is a superior energy of man, which is all living entities who are struggling with material nature and sustaining the universe. So let us continue. Yeah. Sirisha Matade, I see you. You want to read? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Matade, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
From here you can.
There are many material universes clustered together, and all these universes constitute the material creation. Behind these clusters are countless material universes in the spiritual sky, which is also maintained in Bhagavad Gita. Natad Bhasyate Suryo Nasasanko na Pavaka Yat Gatvana Nivartante Taddama Paramam Mama. That abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by electricity, and anyone who reaches it never comes back to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 15.6. That superior nature which is behind this material nature is eternal. There is no history of its ever having begun. It has neither beginning nor end. Parastasmat to bhavonyo vyaktat sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nasya suna vinasyati avyaktokshara iti yuktas tam aho paramam gatim Yam prapyana nivartante taddama paramam mama. There is another eternal nature which is transcendental to this manifested and non-manifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated when all in this material world is annihilated. That part remains as it is. That supreme status is called unmanifested and infallible and is the highest destination. Going there, one never returns from that. My supreme abode. Bhagavad Gita 8:20-21. The Vedic religion or Varnashrama Dharma is also called eternal because no one can trace out its beginning. The Christian religion has a history of 2000 years and the Mohammedan religion has a history of 1300 years. But if we try to trace out the origins of Vedic religion, we will not be able to find a beginning. Varnashrama Dharma is accepted as the eternal religion of the living entity. We often say that God created this material world, and this means that God existed before the world. Since the Lord was existing before this material manifestation, he is not subject to this creation. If he were subject to the laws of the material world, how could he have created it? That the Lord is simultaneously identical with his creation and it exists in his completeness apart from it is stated in Bhagavad Gita.
Continue, Mata. Yeah, you can read now.
Maya tatam idam sarvam jagatavyaktam murtina matstani sarva bhutani machaham teshavavastitaha nachamatstani bhutani pasyame yogam asvaram bhuta aishvaram
Ishwaram, yes. Mata.
Aishwaram bhuta prannacha bhutasto mamata bhuta bhavanaha. In my transcendental form, I pervade all this creation. All things are resting in me, but I am not in them. Again, everything that is created does not rest on me. Behold my majestic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. Bhagavad Gita 9.4 and 5. Actually, can I continue, Prabhu?
Yeah, you can read this paragraph also.
Yeah. Actually, we are all spirit planets,
Spirit souls.
spirit souls, and are intended to associate with God in the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable spiritual planets and innumerable spiritual living entities. However, those who are not fit to live in that spiritual world are sent to this material world. This very idea is expressed by Milton in Paradise Lost. All those spirit soul we have voluntarily accepted this material body, and by accepting it has also accepted the threefold miseries of material nature. Exactly when we accepted it and how we accepted it cannot be traced out. No one can trace out the history of when the conditioned soul first began accepting these material bodies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So we cannot trace out how, my body is, my existence taken place in the material world. We cannot trace. Nobody, only Krishna knows. Right? We passed through different transmigration from one body to another body. And we got this human form of life. Prabhupada writes, no one can trace out the history of when the conditioned soul first began accepting these material bodies. So actually, we are all spirit souls and are intended to associate with God in the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable spiritual planets, countless, no number, unlimited, you can say, and innumerable spiritual living entities. So many pure devotees are countless, so that's serving in the spiritual world. However, those who are not fit to live in that spiritual world are sent to this material world. This very idea is expressed by Milton in Paradise Lost, one English poet, I'm not sure, philosophist. Although spirit soul, we have voluntarily accepted this material body, and by accepting it also, it have also accepted the threefold miseries. Quickly, anybody? What are the threefold miseries of material nature? Threefold miseries. Hare Krishna.
ఆధ్యాత్మిక
Hmm.
ఆది భౌతిక ఆదిదేవి
Yeah. దాని మీనింగ్ కూడా చెప్పండి మాతాజీ. వాట్ ఈస్ ద మీనింగ్ ఆఫ్ ఆధ్యాత్మిక, ఆది దైవిక, ఆది భౌతిక?
Miseries caused by womb. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Adhyatmika means miseries caused by self, means own.
Our own body and mind.
Yeah. Adhyatmika, Adibhautika means other living entities. Adidayika means natural, like Prakriti.
Natural disturbances,
Natural.
earthquakes, etc. Yes, bro. So those are called threefold miseries. So by accepting it, I have also accepted the threefold miseries of material nature. That's why we are bound to all these, Janma Mrityu, along with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, these threefold miseries. Actually, it's total 7. 4 plus 3, 7. So we always, in the material world, material nature, miserable. We won't realize, what that is a thing. We are forced to undergo disease condition, forced to undergo what is that, old age, and forced to leave this material nature and again take the body. But a Krishna conscious devotee, always in conscious of Krishna, he don't want to change next body, just go back home, back to Godhead. So our way, that's where our religion is Sanatana Dharma. Actually, humans who said the religion is already eternally established by Krishna himself, and Varnashrama Dharma also we cannot trace when it has begun. That's why it's called Sanatana Dharma. What is that Varnashrama Dharma? What are the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas? Prabhupada writes in his purports 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. So what are the social orders? Varna Ashrama. Anybody?
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ.
Yes, ma'am.
బ్రాహ్మణం, గృహస్థాశ్రమము, సన్యాసాశ్రమం, వానప్రస్థాశ్రమం ప్రభుజీ.
That is Ashrama.
వర్ణాలేమో బ్రాహ్మణ, క్షత్రియ, వైశ్య, శూద్ర.
Nice. So that's the thing. Brahmana means teachers, intelligent people. They have endowed with knowledge. And Kshatriya means administrators. We see now administrator who rule that country or whatever the particular state. Then Vaishyas, business people and farmers, and Shudra, who supports all the laborer. That's it. 4 categories are created by Krishna himself. Chaturvarnyam Maya system according to Guna and Karma. According to Guna means qualities and Karma activities. So this, we see in the broader perspective, everybody fits into these 4 Varnas only. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Somebody teachers, somebody administrators, somebody businessman, and somebody laborers who works for them. Right now, as we are working as software engineers, we're working for some company. It's kind of that 4th category, Shudra. So this is created. We cannot trace when Varnashrama Dharma is accepted as the eternal religion of the living entity. We will not be able to find a beginning. Whereas, Christianity, Mohammedan, there is a time frame there, 2000 years back, 1300 years back, like that. So, we often say that God created this material world, and this means that God existed before the world. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, Brahma Samhitam prayers. He was existed before creation happens. He was there. He's Adi Purusha, and he is unborn. He has no parents. That's it. He is there. How he has created, it cannot perceivable through our senses. Through him, everything is created. He is Aja. He's called Aja. Aja means unborn. That's where it's. We cannot trace some of the things. If we see how when living entity come to this material world, we cannot trace. Only Krishna knows how he sent it in this. The 2 verses, parastatmastu bhavanyo vyakto vyakta sanatana ya sarveshu bhuteshu nastyastu na vinashyati avyaktoksara iti yuktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapya nivartante tadhama paramama. When we reach that parandhamam, can never come back. There is another, it's a definition of spiritual world. There is another eternal nature which is transcendental to this manifested and non-manifested matter. It is supreme and it is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. That supreme status is called unmanifested and infallible and is the highest destination. Going there, one never returns from that, my supreme abode. There is one more verse. Yad gatvana nivartante tadhama paramamama. There is one more verse in the 15th chapter. Natad bhashayate suryo na shishanko na pavaka yad gatvana nivartante tadhama paramamama. Natad bhashayate suryo. There is no requirement of sunlight, moonlight or electricity in the spiritual world. All of our bodies, the spiritual body, self-illuminating body. Think about it, self-illuminating. We don't require any sunlight. We don't require any moon. We don't require any sun electricity. But in this material world, we are dependent on Krishna's resources, Krishna's creation. Sunlight we need, moonlight we need, electricity we need. In the spiritual world, because we got the spiritual body, no requirement, because no conditions of the bodies. So when we reach, go back to God, there is no question of returning back. So this is there. That's why it's eternal illusion. And two more verses, Prabhupada quoted here. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyaktam murtina mastani sarva bhutani nachaham tesva avastitha. Nachamastani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram bhuta brunnacha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavana. In my transcendental form, I pervade all this creation. He is everywhere. Pervading features as a super soul. Chara achara. All things are resting in me. But I am not in them. Again, everything that is created does not rest on me. Behold my mystic opulence. He is aloof. Actually, Krishna, his expansion is taken care of. But the person, the original person is always enjoying, blissful in the spiritual world. Always there with, different servants, gopas, gopis, manjaris, different pure devotees. He always engaged. He will always be with them. All this expansion, all this. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. Yeah. So this one we were talking about. It's not possible how I came to this. That's the thing. How I came to this material world, which we cannot be able to trace. But it's okay. We come here. We got this material body. We got this human form. We have to understand. We have to just escape from this 4 problems of life by practicing devotional life. Yeah, let us continue. Swapna Mata, you want to read? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Swapna Mata.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Your voice is low.
Now, Prabhuji.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. At present, Darwin's theory of the evolution of organic matter is very prominent in institutions of higher learning. But there is information given in the Padma Purana and other authoritative scriptures of the living entities, spiritual evolution from one bodily form to another. This Purana informs us that there is 8 8
8 million.
88, yeah,
Million 400,000, but 84 lakhs we can say.
400 forms of living entities, and 900,000 of which live within water. And there are 2 million species amongst plants and vegetables alone. At present, everyone is giving stress to Darwin's theory. But in Vedic literature, there is immense information about the different species. Darwin expresses the opinion that the species are evolving from lower forms of life, but this is not the whole truth. The soul may progress from lower forms to higher forms, but in the beginning of the creation, all species were created by Sri Krishna, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakritim Yanti Mamikam Kalpaksaya Punastani Kalpadau Visarjami Aham. Visarjami Aham. Praktrim Sarvam Avastabhya Visarjami Puna Bhuta Gramam Imam Prabhuji. Imam Krsnam. Imam Krsnam Avasam Prakter Vasat. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters onto my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, is it manifested again and again? And by my will, is it annihilated at the end? Bhagavad Gita 9.7 and 8. All of these living entities are subject to the threefold miseries, including those miseries pertaining to the body and the mind. Animals cannot understand that they are suffering, but human beings can. One who does not know that he is suffering is in animal consciousness. Animals may be standing behind a fence to be slaughtered, but they do not understand this. As human beings, we should be cognizant that we are suffering the pains of birth, old age, disease, and death, and should be inquisitive to know how to avoid these miseries. We have been suffering from the beginning of our birth, when as a baby we were tightly placed for 9 months in the womb of mother. After birth, suffering continues. Although the mother may take much care of a child, the baby still cries. Why? Because he is suffering. Either a bug is biting, or there is a pain in the stomach, or some other malady. Whatever the case, the suffering goes on. The child also suffers when he is forced to go to school, when he does not want to. The child does not want to study, but the teacher gives him task anyway. If we carefully analyze our lives, we will find that they are full of suffering. Generally speaking, conditioned souls are not very intelligent, and therefore they go on suffering without ever inquiring why. We should understand, however, that is suffering is there, that this suffering is there, and if there is a remedy, we must take advantage of it. The great sage Rishabhadeva instructed his sons in this way: my dear boys, in this life you have acquired these beautiful bodies. Now you should know that they are not meant for sense gratification, like the bodies of hawks and dogs, but for spiritual realization. Essentially, that Rishabhadeva is saying is that the life of sense gratification is meant for stool eaters like hawks. And now that we have a higher form of life, we should not try to imitate the lower forms. Recently, we were surprised to see, while talking in Central Park in New York City, that a group of young American boys and girls
were engaged in worshipping hogs. While we were chanting hog, 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 they were actually
Hare Krishna.
parading with hogs in.
While chanting Hare Krishna, you can start again. You can start here again.
While we were chanting Hare Krishna, these groups of youngsters were chanting hog, hog, hog. They were actually parading with hogs in the Central Park and bowing down before them and worshipping them. They actually wanted one hog to become president and they wanted the hog to lead them. This has gone to such length that at one B in Seattle, there was a demonstration with hogs in which the boys and girls undressed themselves and got in the mud and played with the hogs. And in this way, they were associating with the hogs and pigs, which they worshipped. All this is going on in a country where the young people have good-looking bodies, a great deal of money, and so many advantages over the young people of other nations. Shall I continue, Prabhuji, till end of this para?
Yes.
The result of gaining all these advantages is that they have simply taken to hog worship. Such hog worship was anticipated long, long ago and was described in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was compiled at least 5,000 years ago. The point is that a beautiful situation in life should be utilized for a beautiful end, not for degraded forms of worship. Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So that's what Prabhupada writes, hog worship, that's not good. And human life is only for self-realization, not for sense gratification. How can we understand? We can see this, there is a pastime. Rishabhadeva has 100 sons. Wonderful teachings, Rishabhadeva's teachings. My dear boys, in this life, you have acquired these beautiful bodies. That means human form of life. Now you should know that they are not meant for sense gratification, like the bodies of hogs and dogs, but for spiritual realization. Saying that life of a sense gratification is meant for stool eaters. So that's the thing. So, if the human life is very rare actually. We see in the songs, in the Pralamara teachings also, Durlabha Manusha Janma. And ultimately, Vedic teachings also gives that Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Human life is meant for self-realization. But still, we got these metal bodies, and we are ignorant of this spiritual knowledge. And that's where suffering goes on. Prabhupada starts with suffering, how the animals, how the human beings are suffering taking place. As human beings, we should be cognizant that we are suffering. Animals don't know that I am suffering. Animals, see this one, see. Animals may be standing behind a fence to be slaughtered, but they do not understand this, that I am going to kill. As human beings, we got this. We should be cognizant that we are suffering the pains of birth, old age, disease, and death, and should be inquisitive to know how to avoid these miseries. We have been suffering from the beginning of our birth in the mother's womb and in the growing stage. So Prabhupada writes this, the child does not want to study, but the teacher gives him tasks anyway. If we carefully analyze our lives, we will find that they are all full of suffering. Generally speaking, conditioned souls are not very intelligent, and therefore they go on suffering without ever inquiring why. So the why questions I have to ask for oneself. Why all these sufferings come into play? Why I came to this miserable material world? The why, what, how can I escape? So these questions comes a person inquisitive in the knowledge, to understand the purpose of life. These questions will come. So nicely explained. Let us continue actually. Yeah. The point is, Prabhupada writes, the point is, the point is that a beautiful situation in life should be utilized for a beautiful end, not for degraded forms of worship. What is that beautiful situation in life? We got the wonderful form of human life. This is the boat. We have to cross over these material sufferings. And life should be utilized for a beautiful end. What is that beautiful end? We have to work for yadgatva nanivartante tadhama paramamama. Prabhupada numerous times, many times he writes this, back home, back to Godhead. And he started a magazine, monthly magazine. It was earlier weekly, I think. Back to Godhead magazine, BTG, back to Godhead. So we have to have a clear goal. In spiritual life, what is that? We have to go back home, back to God and serve Him eternally. We have beautiful situation in the form of human body, and we have to work for the beautiful end. Anta kalecha mamyeva smaran muktva kalevanam. We have to remember Krishna at the time of it. How can we remember Krishna at the time of it? At least daily life, 24 hours a day. Try to remember Krishna every possible way, every hour, every minute. The mind, our activities, keeping Krishna in the center and work with. Always remember Krishna, never forgets. That is the goal of life. So let us continue. Let Prabhu's, Sapan Prabhu and Sunil Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Sorry, first let Mata is done, then let us continue in 15-16 minutes. Both of you can read some of the paragraphs. Sunil Prabhu or Sapan Prabhu?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. In the Vedic histories, we find that there were many exalted who practiced austerities and penances. Dhruva Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, and Yudhishthira Maharaj were all great kings and were most opulent, but at the same time, they were great sages. Thus, they set good example for those who have acquired this good opportunity of a beautiful human form of life with all the facilities for economic development and good living. This opportunity should be used to attain an even better life, and this can be actualized by practice of penance. At present, we are existing in these material bodies, but if we take to the process of Krishna consciousness, our consciousness will be purified. Although American and European, the young students who are voluntarily practicing Krishna consciousness are very pleased to practice it. The process is not troublesome but pleasing. Now they are realizing that purified existence constitutes a difference between animal life and human life. If we purify our existence simply by following the basic regulations of Krishna consciousness, which involve abstaining from illicit sexual connection, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, we will gradually rise to attain our spiritual existence, which is completely pure. The sage Rishabhadeva told his sons that once they purified their existence, they would have unlimited happiness. We are all intended to attain peace and happiness, but whatever peace and happiness we find in this material world is limited. But if we purify our existence and attain spiritual existence, we will experience unlimited peace and happiness. The spiritual world is not dry or abstract, as pointed out before. There is variegatedness there. A part of the spiritual pleasure experienced in the Vaikunthas is the pleasure of dancing. There are also young girls and boys there. Indeed, there is no such thing as old age or disease or death or the pains of birth. If you want to participate in unlimited happiness, knowledge, and eternal life, which constitute our actual heritage in spiritual world, we should not waste this life by working hard for sense gratification and worshipping hogs. We should accept a life devoted to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and then we will get unlimited happiness and unlimited pleasure. This is the sum and substance of Krishna consciousness movement. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhu. So that's where we have to work for Krishna by practicing Krishna consciousness. Spiritual life. Adopt the principles of spiritual life. What is that? See, so nicely writes Prabhupada. Here, this opportunity should be used to attain an even better life. And this can be actualized by practicing of penance. At present, we are existing in these material bodies, but if we take to the process of Krishna consciousness, our consciousness will be purified. Prabhupada writes, all these American boys and European boys, how voluntarily practicing Krishna consciousness, are very pleased to practice it. The process is not troublesome but pleasing. Now they are realizing that purified existence constitutes the difference between animal life and human life. So that's the thing. We have to purify our existence. Prabhupada writes, purify our existence. How? How can we purify our existence? By following the basic regulations. That's why regulative principles are set forth, which involve, what is that? What are the regulative principles? Abstaining from illicit sexual connection, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. So how sinful activities are created? By breaking the regulative principles, meat eating, intoxication, illicit and gambling. That's where how sinful activities are created in our lives, because of breaking the regulative principles. We are not situated in a proper dharma. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we were, in those this regulative principles. We are not in the regulative principles before that. We will gradually rise to attain our spiritual existence. Gradually, Krishna consciousness is an overnight process. It's a gradual, slow and steady, consistency needed. Actually, it requires consistency. It requires perseverance. It requires patience, tolerance. Somebody feel that I'm into Krishna consciousness since 16 years, 17 years. I'm still not getting the taste. You have to work on it. How I am doing all the, since last 15 years, how I am serving, what are the seriousness, how much seriousness I am taking up, or how seriously practicing. See, actually, it's a beautiful thing. Krishna consciousness, if a person seriously takes up the process and adopt these principles of devotional life, definitely there is a success guaranteed. And we can see easily, gradual elevation of our consciousness, or take up the things, how we can, our dealings will be changed, our perceptions will be changed over the time when we take up the seriousness in the path of bhakti. We will gradually rise to attain our spiritual existence, which is completely pure. We are going towards pure path. We are going towards pure path, pure devotional service. The sage Rishabhadeva told his sons that once they purified their existence, they would have unlimited happiness. See, a sinless life, right? How can we get the unlimited happiness? A person takes up the sinless life. That means, strictly following the regulative principles and chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord. So we are all intended to attain peace and happiness. But whatever peace and happiness we find in this material world is limited. But if we purify our existence, attain spiritual existence, we will experience unlimited peace and happiness. These are the great Vaishnava Acharya, founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada is saying for all of us. We have to purify our existence by following the 4 regulative principles and chant the holy names of the Lord. Spiritual world is always dynamic. Spiritual world is not dry or abstract, as pointed out before. The variegatedness is there. Dancing, Prabhupada writes, a part of the spiritual pleasure experienced in the Vaikunthas is the pleasure of dancing. There are also young girls and young boys there. Indeed, there is no such things, old age, disease, death, or the pains of birth. If you want to participate in the unlimited happiness, knowledge, and eternal life, which constitute our actual heritage in the spiritual world, our heritage. This is our heritage. What is our heritage? We just have to participate in the unlimited happiness. We want to participate. So nicely written, no? This one, very wonderful. I like the until this point. If we want to participate in the unlimited happiness, our soul's nature. Can anybody says what is the soul's nature? How the how the spiritual body consists of? What are the how spiritual body consists?
Sat Chit Anand.
Yes, bro. Thank you very much. Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat Chit Ananda. Eternal. Sat means eternal. Chit means knowledgeable, and Ananda, blissfulness. That is the nature of the soul. That is the body of the spirit soul. If you want to participate in the unlimited happiness, knowledge, and eternal life, which constitute our actual heritage in the spiritual life, we should not waste this life by working hard for sense gratification and worshipping hogs. We should accept a life devoted to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and then we will get unlimited happiness and unlimited pleasure. This is the sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada emphasizing here to take up the Krishna consciousness very seriously and practice it. So, thank you very much. Prabhu, Sunil Prabhu, you can start the second chapter and sum up. Then we can wrap up.
Okay, bro.
Yeah,
Hard
second chapter.
struggle for happiness. In the revealed scriptures, the Supreme Lord is described as Satchit Anand Vigraha. Sat means eternal, Chit means fully cognizant or knowledge. Ananda means knowledge, joyful, and Vigraha means that he is a person. Thus, the Lord or the Supreme Godhead, who is one without a second, is a fully cognizant and eternally joyful personality with a full sense of his identity. No one is equal to him or greater than him. This is a concise description of the Supreme Lord. The living entities, jivas, are minute samples of the Supreme Lord, and being so, they therefore find in their activities the desire for eternal existence, for complete knowledge and for happiness. These desires are evident in human society and in the upper planetary system, Swargaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka, etc. The living entities enjoy a longer duration of life, an increased amount of knowledge, and a generally more blissful existence. But even in the highest planet in this material world, where the duration of life and standard of enjoyment are thousands of times greater than those on earth, there is still old age, disease, and death. Consequently, the level of enjoyment is insignificant in comparison to the eternal bliss enjoyed in the company of the Supreme Lord. Loving service to the Supreme Lord in different relationships makes even the enjoyment of impersonal Brahman as insignificant as a drop of water in comparison to the ocean. Every living being desires the topmost level of enjoyment in this material world, and yet someone is unhappy. This unhappiness is present on all the higher planets, despite a longer lifespan, higher standards of enjoyment, and that is due to the law of material nature. We can increase the duration of life in standard to the highest capacity, and yet by the law of material nature, we will be unhappy. The reason for this is that the quality of happiness, which is suitable for our constitution, is different from the happiness which is derived from material activities. The living entity is a minute particle of superior spiritual energy of the Lord, which is Satchitanand Vigraha, and therefore he has the necessary propensity for joy, which is spiritual in quality. Unfortunately for him, he is trying vainly to attain his enjoyment from the foreign atmosphere of material nature. Shall I continue?
Continue, Prabhu. Yes, we have 5 more minutes.
A fish that is taken out of the water cannot be happy by any arrangement on land. He must be supplied with water. In the same way, a minute Sachitanand living entity cannot be really happy through any amount of planning conceived by his illusion brain in this material universe. He must therefore be given a different type of happiness, which is spiritual in essence. Our ambition should be aimed at enjoying spiritual bliss and not this temporary happiness. Some philosophers claim that spiritual bliss is attained by negating material happiness and material existence. Theoretical negation of material activities as propounded by Sripad Shankaracharya may be effected for an insignificant section of mankind. But the best and surest way for everyone to attain spiritual bliss was propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by means of devotional activities. These devotional activities can change the very face of material nature.
Read
Yeah.
to another.
Hankering after material happiness is called lust, and lusty activities are sure to meet with frustration in the long run. And the body of a snake is very cool, but if a man wanting to enjoy this coolness garlands himself with a venomous snake, he will surely be killed by the snake's venomous bite. The material senses are compared to snakes. Indulgence in material happiness will surely kill our spiritual identity. Therefore, sane man should be ambitious to find the real source of happiness. Will I continue?
Yeah, continue.
In order to find this source, however, we need some knowledge of what that happiness is. There is the story of a foolish man who had no experience with sugarcane. When he asked his friend about the characteristics of sugarcane, he was imperfectly informed that sugarcane resembles the shape of a bamboo stick. Consequently, he began trying to extract juice from bamboo sticks. But naturally, he was baffled by his attempts. This is the situation with the illusioned living entity who, in search for eternal happiness, tries to extract happiness from this plane, which is not only full of miseries, but is also transient and flickering. In Bhagavad Gita, the material world is described as being full of miseries.
Read this one, Prabhu.
Brahma bhavana loko punar avartino arjuna mam upetya tu kaunteya punar janma na vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery where repeated birth and death takes place. But one who tends to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. 8.6.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for reading. So we need to understand what is the material happiness and the spiritual happiness. So material happiness is called lust, and lusty activities are sure to meet with frustration in the long run. Snake example is given. The material senses are compared to snakes. Indulgence in material happiness will surely kill our spiritual identity. Therefore, a sane man should be ambitious to find the real source of happiness. How can we find that real source of happiness, the spiritual happiness, which connects to the soul? That means the devotional activities. In order to find this source, however, we need some knowledge of what that happiness. There is a story of the foolish man who had no experience with sugar cane. When he asked his friend, what is he saying? It just looks like, when he asked his friend about the characteristics of sugarcane, he was imperfectly informed that sugarcane resembled the shape of a bamboo stick. Consequently, he began trying to extract juice from bamboo sticks, but naturally he was baffled in his attempts. This is the situation with the illusioned living entity, who in his search for eternal happiness tries to extract happiness from this material world. Right? So 4 categories. A person gets happiness, limited happiness, we can understand. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But that is not real happiness then. It's temporary. It may feel it is going to stay for some time. And that's it. Flickering, it's called flickering happiness. Material happiness is flickering happiness, whereas spiritual happiness ever increasing. Which is not only full of miseries, but is also transient and flickering. In the Bhagavad Gita, the material world is described as being full of miseries. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. See, all the material nature, material planets, these 4 problems, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, there. Some higher planetary system, some sense of higher enjoyment compared to earthly planets, long life, but still they are subjected to these 4 problems. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Even Brahma also has to undergo this phase. So let me read 1-2 paragraphs and we'll wrap up. Let me see if anything to discuss on this. Yeah. Sachidananda Vigraha, that's what we are talking about, right? Krishna, Supreme Lord is described as Sachidananda Vigraha. So we are part and parcel of Supreme Lord. So our part also same, Sachidananda Vigraha. Mamayavamsha, our Amsha is also Sachidananda Amsha. The soul's body, spirit soul's body, Sachidananda Vigraha body, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. One who is without a second is fully cognizant and eternally joyful personality with full sense of his identity. No one is equal to him or greater than him. Period. It's called in a Sanskrit word, asama urdhva. Asama urdhva. Asama means nobody is equal. Sama and urdhva, greater than. Nobody is greater than Krishna. He's a master. That's it. His position never changes. Because he is the creator, he is the proprietor, he is the enjoyer also. So let me read these two paragraphs and wrap up. The ambition for happiness is natural and good, but the attempt to derive it from inert matter by so-called scientific arrangements is an illusory attempt doomed to frustration. Those who are befooled cannot understand this. Befooled cannot understand this. How a person is driven by the lust for material happiness is also described in Bhagavad Gita. See, in the material world, main thing is Krishna himself says three gates of a hell: lust, anger, greed. Trividam narakasyedam. Trividam narakasyedam. Trividam. What is a trividam? Lust, anger, and greed. Lust can be a man-woman relationship. Lust can be sense gratification, material activities, material desires away from Krishna, selfish desires to enjoy this material world like this. That comes under lust. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, how a person is driven by the lust for material happiness is also described in the Bhagavad Gita. Idam adya maya labdam imam prapshe manoratam idam astidam apime bhavishyati punardhanam. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, so I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. No? Accumulation mode, not giving mode. Accumulation. Again, selfish. Accumulation means accumulation, and you use it for own selfish means that it's doomed. Use it for higher purpose, use it for Krishna, then that's good. This atheistic or godless evaluation is a huge affair contrived for the gratification of our senses. And now we are all mad after money in order to maintain this empty shell. Money is sought after by everyone. Money gives honey. That's where their statement. Money gives honey. Money is sought after everyone because that is the medium of exchange for objects for sense gratification. Yeah, it's a big paragraph. Let me complete and we'll wrap up. Sense gratification. Obviously, the expectation of peace in such an atmosphere of gold rush, pandemonium is a utopian dream. As long as there is the slightest tinge of sense gratification or desire for sense gratification, peace will remain far, far away. This is because by nature we are all eternal servants of the Supreme Lord and therefore cannot enjoy anything for our personal interests. It is therefore necessary for us to learn how to employ our senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and utilize everything to serve his interest. This alone can bring about much desired peace. A part of the body cannot in itself be independently happy. It can only derive its happiness and pleasure out of serving the entire body. The Supreme Lord is the whole and we are parts, but we are all busily engaged in activities of self-interest. No one is prepared to serve the Lord. This is the basic cause for our conditioning in material existence and for our resultant unhappiness. Very nicely written, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Talks about selfish interest, self-interest, selfish motives. Anything. Supreme Lord cannot enjoy anything for our. This is because by nature we are all. This is because by nature we are all eternal servants of the Supreme Lord and therefore cannot enjoy anything for our personal interests. It is therefore necessary for us to learn how to employ our senses in the transcendental service of the Lord. Anybody remember the verse? We have to employ our senses in the transcendental loving service of Supreme Lord. Rishikena ऋषिकेश सेवन भक्तिरुच्यते. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. We have to employ our senses for the service of Krishna. All of our senses, our eyes, our tongue, our nose, our ears, our body, our mind, our influence, right? Then this alone can bring about much desired peace. If we are working in the sense gratification is nothing but selfish motives only. That's it. There is no question of, there is no selflessness in that. That's why sense gratification, Prabhupada writes, sense gratification and self-realization go ill together. Go ill together. It won't work. Sense, what is that? Sense gratification and this self-interest, sense gratification, the spiritual life go ill together. That means we have to work for some selfish, we have to develop the quality of selfless nature. We have to give our time, we have to give our money, we have to give our talents, whatever we have in the service of the Lord. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktiruchyate. Then we will get the real happiness and real peace. In the material objects, the material activities, we won't get that. It looks like it is happiness is there, but it won't stay. It won't help us actually. So right. We'll stop here. It's already 8. So yeah. Thank you so much for all of your attendance. And we are on weekend, Friday. So let us connect on Monday and continue reading this book, Elevation to Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada writes so nicely all these books, small books, to give the taste of the Krishna consciousness. And with the knowledge, can understand the real purpose of life. Okay. So thank you so much again. Sunil Prabhu, Samyukta Mataji, Sapan Prabhu, Pallavi Mataji, Swapna Mataji, Shirisha Mataji. Thank you so much. Let us connect on Monday. Have a happy Krishna conscious weekend. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Srila Gurudev ki jai. Jai Gaur Hari Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.